Okay, let's address these 14 tabs that you probably have open that all have conflicting information. They have confusing pricing, too good to be true promises. Becoming a doula really should not be mysterious or confusing. So let's get into this step by step. So the steps are actually quite simple. And let's hold your hand through these. So you first need to decide what kind of care you want to do. So let me show you here. Let's get all fancy. Okay, so we have a few options here. So you can do fertility, okay? And this would be helping people through their preconception journey. These could be folks that just want to like maybe get support as they're going through their journey. These could be folks having a longer trying to conceive journey. And then this would go into antepartum. Okay, and this would be supporting people in their pregnancies, but you don't actually attend their birth. So you help them. Typically, these are more high risk folks. So they might be on bed rest, or they might have a lot of extra appointments or, tests or screens. And so they would want you to support them at that time. Okay, then there's birth. This is usually what people think about when we think about doulas. People are like, oh, labor doulas, birth doulas. Okay. So, but it's gaining in popularity, but we actually should really be focusing way more on postpartum doulas, because don't get me wrong, I'm a birth doula, so like I will plug birth work, but there's that postpartum time is so much more than just that day, and there's not a lot of attention. So you might hear them called postnatal doulas or postpartum doulas. Those are the same things. Here's what I'm going to actually plug. So as you're deciding which one grabs you, is I would say consider full spectrum, and that would mean that you're certified in all of these plus loss. Okay. And so why do we think this? Well, firstly, somebody's fertility journey really impacts how they feel about their pregnancy. So let's consider somebody who's had a long trying to conceive journey, or maybe some losses in there. By the time they get into their pregnancy, there's usually a little bit more tests and screens, or follow up with their fertility clinic or those sorts of things. So they're carefully monitored, and we can actually see things happening during the pregnancy, such as people feeling really disconnected from their birth, or like from their pregnancy, or like not wanting to get their hopes up, especially if they had a loss. So kind of this like precious baby. We can see more interventions happening at the birth. There's this kind of idea of like easy in, easy out, not easy in, not easy out. And people might actually be a little bit more conservative in the choices that they're making, because they just like want to get this baby out. They want their baby to be okay. They like aren't going to be really connected or like excited about this until this live baby is in their arms. So this very much impacts their birth. And then once we get to that postpartum time, we actually see a really high rate of postpartum mood disorders. So they kind of go hand in hand, a long trying to conceive journey or a history of loss with postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression, those sorts of things. So you could see that if you understand the whole reproductive cycle, you could actually be doing really great work. But that's even if you do not intend to work in all of these fields. If you are just a postpartum doula, not just, but like that's the area you want to focus, you know that you'll be able to set your clients up based on what happened in their fertility, what happened in their antepartum or during their pregnancies, what happened in their birth, and then make sure that you can provide that really excellent care in the postpartum period. Okay. So I'm always going to plug full spectrum because I just think it makes you a better practitioner. Let's turn this off here. Okay. The next thing that you need to, so step 2, so this is step 1, you need to choose which area. Full spectrum. Okay. Step 2 is you need to choose a training that matches, the path that you want to take and your values. So this actually takes a little bit of legwork. So you remember those 14 tabs you have open, but I want you to be looking at them with a different kind of lens rather than kind of getting caught up with some of the images they might have or some of the like big promises they might make. I want you to choose a doula training that is aligned with your values. So, not all doula trainings celebrate all families. And so they might avoid talking about medical racism or fat phobia, obstetric violence, queer care, any of those things. So if that's important to you, you're going to want to find an organization that like clearly talks about it, not just has one module set aside that's like, oh, here's where we're going to talk about everything else that's not dominant culture. You want to find a training that has it literally baked into everything it does. I'm going to do a little shameless plug here, but this is what we believe at Babel Mia, and it is built into everything that we do. Is we address disability justice, and we can't talk about food if we're addressing that sometimes your clients will live either in food insecurity, food poverty, or a food desert. And so that if we're like, salmon's great for right now, but you're in an area that would just not be possible, we need to be able to pivot and support families, meeting them where they are. Okay. So, everything that we do at Babel Mia is built on a trauma-informed anti-oppressive lens. So we talk about what is it like if your client's done sex work, because y'all, spoiler alert, you'd be shocked the number of people that you'd be supporting that have done, are considering doing, or will do sex work, for example. And caring for folks living with disabilities, both visible and invisible, honoring birth rituals, all of those things from around the world. It needs to be woven into the DNA of the program. So please make sure that you check. I recently had somebody reach out talking about another doula training organization that they were disappointed with, and they wanted to know about our transfer program, because we have a transfer program. And I went over to the site. I didn't really know this organization, so I went and checked it out, and they were disappointed that they weren't taking a stance around some of the political issues that were currently happening. And I was like, yeah, but if you look at their website, they're very intentionally not taking a stance on anything political. So, you knew what you were getting when you walked into the training. So check out their Instagram, check out their Facebook. Are they commenting on things? What kind of images do they show? Do you feel seen and represented within them? So that would be my next tip. Third step, you need to complete your training, and you need to integrate whatever you are taking away, and like have the time to move it into real world experience and having that mentorship and that processing time. There are some weekend trainings available out there. We highly recommend you pass on those. I can't say enough. You really, okay, well, here's the deal. If you go into a weekend training, you're actually going to have to do a lot of continuing education and scaffolding on your own, because it's just not possible to learn everything that you need to learn in 2 days. It's just not possible. Like, you can't even learn about trauma-informed care. There's you can't learn about the stages and phases. You can't learn about client care. What do we do in tricky situations? What happens if, this happens, all these what ifs, plus your business part. So, no, we are not medical practitioners, but we're working within a medical system. We're working in a medical environment. We're working with test screens and procedures. We're working in hospitals and birth centers and fertility clinics. So your clients will be sharing medical information with you. Like, you're going to need a level of competency that you just can't learn in a weekend. Okay, fourth step. You need to begin supporting clients. And that's actually, not only is it the fun part, because you get to hold squishy babies or see babies being born, or, hold people's hand as they get those 2 pink lines. But you need to continue your education. So you need to be listening and reading and watching and signing up for events. You'll learn so much once you're out in the field. So the process, continues forever. I've been a doula for almost 20 years. And I'm learning constantly. Things are ever changing, and policies are changing, and practices are changing. And so I'm always having to stay kind of up on what's happening with my clients and how I can support them effectively. Also, adult education, research shows that, learning, we shouldn't have this kind of one dump. It actually, adult learning is in cycles. So there's not just one finish line moment and you're like, yay, I know everything I need to know. So becoming a doula is, the first decision, just the idea of it, but it's actually a series of supported steps that really get you into having a busy, sustainable, lucrative doula business. Okay, so this brings us to the next thing that everybody wants to know. How long is this actually going to take? And we will go over that in the next video. So I'll see you there.